The referee really let them down big time. The play acting, especially from Aguinaldo from Philippines, really caused a lot of consternation. It really showed fragilities in their mental strength, and ultimately, and really unfortunately, the score does not lie. They failed to score, they were eliminated. But as I said, it has been a meaningful campaign for Shin Tae-yong to see how his young boys had coped with the intensity of international football, where older opponents are not going to be as charitable as probably those at a similar age group. Well, simply gutted for the young Garudas, as Indonesia slumped to a 0-1 home defeat to the Philippines, and in the process got themselves eliminated at the group stage of this edition of the ASEAN Championships. It has been a very tough campaign for the young Garudas from the get-go, especially with so many inexperienced players in the squad. But tonight's display from the young Garudas is undoubtedly the best yet from them, as they finally show glimpses of what they could do as their seniors did during the final round of World Cup qualifying. It just so happened that an undeserved red card for Muhammad Ferrari late in the first half, and a very harsh penalty decision in the second half that led to Jon Christensen netting the resulting penalty for the only goal of the game. Really, it was very gutting for Shin Tae-yong's boys. You can't help but feel for those passionate fans who turn out at full capacity in Sukatra. You can't help but feel so much for the young Garudas who gave so much, especially when Shin put up the strongest lineup possible in this AFF after 3 rounds of, you can say, tweaking and experimenting to see who he can really trust the most when the final reckoning comes in this final Group B encounter. Just really gutting. And unfortunately, the man in the middle tonight, Japanese referee Koji Takasaki, he ultimately had to be held responsible for Indonesia's malaise. And it's not because the Philippines were good. The Philippines, from the start of the campaign until now, they looked like they were strangers playing together with one another, and at times their play did not look that coherent, playing a lot on the counter attacks, and I think still trying to get to know when you have so many unfamiliar faces in, you can say, the second regrouping of your heritage players for the ASCALs. But still, as usual, after the first 20 to 30 minutes of adjusting, Indonesia got into the groove. And just as Indonesia were getting to momentum, the least expected moment, that red mist struck again for the second time in this campaign. And when you look at the replays of how the Philippines captain Aguinaldo, he got Muhammad Ferrari to react with an elbow and forced the captain of the night to be red carded in the 41st minute. To be red carded in the 41st minute, I think it says quite a bit. It's like you got the technology there, you have all kinds of replays there, and even from the replays that we saw, it's not certain that that Muhammad Ferrari deserved that red card. Aguinaldo got away with a yellow card for his play acting, and he got a few more play acting theatrics in the second half, causing a lot of consternation from the Indonesians, from the home fans. And yet this guy eventually he never got a second yellow card. He managed to hang on to marshal the Philippines to a famous victory and to qualify for their first ASEAN Championship semi-finals since 2018. But that red card was especially harsh. Was there an evident fierce elbowing that led to this play acting by the Philippines captain? No. From the replays, not at all. And I think I do suspect that the virtual assistant referees do feel the same way, but the Japanese referee Takasaki, who is actually making his international refereeing debut for this match, stuck to his guns. And for much of the rest of the game, until the injury time and the last few minutes, there were moments the decisions were straightforward, but yet at the critical moments he seemed to favor the Philippines a lot more, and that is despite the protestations from the Indonesian players. You can understand how the Garudas felt. It's like, hey, it's just a little elbow, but you can't tell whether it's a real elbowing or otherwise. And the thing is, it's an undeserved red card. A yellow card, yes, but not a red card. Then you got that penalty flashpoint in the 61st minute. I think close to the 60th minute, where you can see a cross from the Philippines winger on the right side. It hit an Indonesian arm, and Koji Takasaki's interpretation was straight away he pointed to a spot, and it took a lot of deliberation from the VAR from all different angles, and even from our replays when we watch it. The thing is, even from the replays that was viewed live on TV, you can feel that it is not easy to pinpoint whether it was ball to hand or handball, deliberate handball to block. It's hard because things can happen so quickly. Is it a deliberate handball, or is it a case of an unfortunate blocking of the ball? It's hard to tell, but still the Japanese referee stuck to his guns, and as a result it was the only goal of the game. Indonesia, the young guns, did not deserve to go out, because before the start of the game it was quite clear, as long as Myanmar do not win in Vietnam and Indonesia hold Philippines to draw, the young Garudas will go through. Vietnam did their part. They won 5-0 at home, but Philippines tore up the script. Is it the fault of the Philippines that they remain dogged and kept frustrating them? Maybe if let's say in any other person's shoes, when you're leading 1-0 but your play is not that coherent, you know that you're not at the technical advantage, or you don't have that strong teamwork compared to the Indonesians, perhaps it could be the same way. But still, the theatrics from the Philippine players were just very frustrating. It's a bit reprehensible, and it really spoiled the mood of the Indonesian players, because when Indonesia began to get into flow in the 30th minute, even after Ferrari's red card, they were in command. Marcelino Ferdinand put in his best performance of this AFF campaign, leading the midfield not just with gusto, but also causing a lot of problems to the Philippines defense, asking questions about their back line and making chances, creating chances, asking questions about the Philippines substitute goalkeeper who Damska, who had to replace the injured Patrick Detto early in the first half. With him finally showing his ability as he did in the World Cup qualifiers, linking up between your midfield and attack and providing the fulcrum of coherence until that penalty flashpoint, you can see that Indonesia were trying to do something, and they were at moments coming close. And at the same time, even with Ferrari's dismissal late in the first half, Indonesia remained dogged. They kept their composure. They made big clearances to keep the first scoreline goalless, and until the penalty goal, keep it kept the score that way. They were very unhappy with the officiating, and it's very understandable. The Japanese referee on his international debut did a bad job. 1 red card, 8 yellow cards. The yellow flurry of yellow cards very late on going to the Philippines for their play acting, when you can tell he has had enough. It's certainly not a test for the faint-hearted, but it's not a good outcome, and the young Garudas ultimately paid the price when they failed to score and they had exited in the group stage. I think for the first time since, if I'm not wrong, 2007. Very frustrating for them. Plenty of lessons to learn from this campaign. And how do I put it? Is it Shinteo's fault that he chose to blood these young players in the absence of his more established senior players for these ASEAN Championships? No. With Indonesia still contesting the final round of World Cup qualifiers, this was an opportunity for the South Korean to actually see who are the young players who can join your Marcelinos, your Pramata Ahans, your Asnawis, and even your Ferraris and Akan Fikris, to be part of, like, you can say, your backup when your full Indonesia senior squad reconvene for the next round of World Cup qualifying matches in March. I think he has found a few players who have stepped up to the plate. Special mention has to go to the Indonesian player. Special mention has to be given to the Indonesian goalkeeper Chaya Sayuri. In the 3 games that he has appeared for the Garudas in this ASEAN Championship, he has performed exceptionally well, given the circumstances, given the occasional fragility of the 3-man defense, which was already established by the 3rd game against Vietnam, with Ferrari in the 3-man central defense pairing of Ferrari on the right, Kadek RL in the middle, and Donny Tri Pamungkas on the left side of the 3-man pairing, with your 2 wingbacks supporting them. He has shown exceptional agility, his composure, his ability to command the box, and his reliability when he was called upon to make the big saves. And he can't be faulted for the penalty he conceded. It's just a penalty is a lottery. Sometimes you make the right move, sometimes you make the wrong move. But still, it's not the fault of Chaya. He was exceptional. Donny Tri Pamungkas and Kadek RL deserves special mention in defense. They adapted well enough from the first game to remain part of the starting lineup for the remaining 3 matches in the group stage, forming a decent partnership with Muhammad Ferrari. Then as for the midfield, you can say Akan Fikri has put his chances of remaining in the Indonesian national squad no harm at all, with solid, competent performances at the heart of midfield. While I think for some of the rest, I think they'll probably have to wait a few more years for their turns to come. But for those few like Victor Dehan, I think especially, those have played at least 2 games in these ASEAN Championships. I think they have greater cause to eventually be included in the Garuda's side, but not now, not for the next World Cup qualifiers. But I think they've given a level of credibility that should give them consideration when the new coach, or when Shinteio decides that he needs another group of local players for an assignment. They have done their campaigns, you can say their performances, their tests, no harm at all. Then what about the rest? I mean, the 1 or 2 who didn't play is a bit unfortunate, but tournament football is really like that. You're going to get the third choice goalkeeper and probably one or two outfield players who do not have any minutes at all. It's a bit unfortunate, but it's a reality. But for those who only had one game, you can tell that they're probably overawed by the situation, by the increase in intensity of international football compared to your international youth football or even club football. Then, as for tactics wise, they played to the same style that the senior Garudas have been used to in this World Cup qualifying campaign, and generally, especially in tonight's game, they acquitted themselves well. There's some promise for the future. It's just unfortunate that Indonesia's wait for their first ASEAN Championship title has to be extended for another 2 years. Very unfortunate. Although it's understandable because you have an under 21 squad with Asnawi being the oldest player at 25 years old. But still, a creditable campaign. Unfortunate losses to Vietnam, which was a sucker punch by Quang Hai, and to the Philippines where they considered penalty. That thrilling 3-3 draw with Laos was also result-wise a downer, but plenty of things learned, plenty of things understood that make them readjust their tactics for the final two games. Not all is lost for the Garudas, but sometimes the reality of tournament football is sometimes when you do not really produce the results in Southeast Asia. Shin Tae-yong would probably knows that more because this is not his first ASEAN Championship campaign. It's more of Shin needing to bring the I think he knows that he has a much tougher task than he had in the last couple of campaigns where they reached the semi-final. I think 2021 the final, 2022 the semi-finals, and this time unfortunately it's the group stage with a young squad. But plenty of things and insights that he has gotten. This is not a wasted campaign for the Garudas. And even as the young Garudas disperse as their journey is over, I do wish the Garudas the best for 2025, especially with the final round of World Cup qualifying, where they remain in contention for the second automatic spot behind runaway leaders Japan, and possibly, I think more realistically, a place in the next round of qualifying playoffs where they still retain a shot of reaching the 2026 finals in North America. Yeah. So ultimately, commiserations to the Garudas, to Shin Tae-yong and the coaching staff. The referee really let them down big time. The play acting, especially from Anguinaldo from Philippines, really caused a lot of consternation. It really showed fragilities in their mental strength, and ultimately, and really unfortunately, the score does not lie. They failed to score. They were eliminated. But as I said, it has been a meaningful campaign for Shin Tae-yong to see how his young boys had coped with the intensity of international football, where older opponents are not going to be as charitable as probably those at a similar age group. And a number of them had passed the test, some still on the borderline, but a number, I think this is probably their first and only caps for the Garudas for a considerable amount of time, and possibly for their careers. One cap wonders, unfortunately, but it's the reality when you are thrown into the deep end, and that's how different outcomes happen. And I think there are more things gained in spite of the exit. And as I've said earlier, I do wish Shin Tae-yong and Garudas well for 2025, where I hope they can have a big breakthrough and make the Indonesians continue to dream for a World Cup finals place since 1938.